All right, it's about that time, so I'm going to go ahead and get things started. First of all, everybody, welcome. My name is Stephen Krutzfeldt, and I'm a pre-sales engineer here with CDI, formerly a business process consultant. And I'll be walking you through today's CDI webinar, which will be on Laserfiche's integration with Salesforce. If at any point you have any questions, please make use of the little floating GoToWebinar box. There should be an option there for questions. Throughout this webinar, feel free to post questions at any time. I will wait till the end, and then we'll have some time reserved to answer any questions that you may have. So today's topic is going to be around Laserfiche's integration with Salesforce. The intended audience for this webinar is going to be advanced Laserfiche users, Laserfiche administrators, but also anyone who may be interested in how the Salesforce integration works or what can be done with it. I will add ahead of time that this is a CDI-specific Salesforce integration. This was created by CDI's development team. And so we do own that, and we are the ones who will help support it, help deploy it, and everything else. To help you follow along, the agenda for today, we're going to start out by looking at an example of the integration and how it can actually work along with forms. The example is going to be someone logging on to a public form, filling out information and submitting that, and then that will actually create a Salesforce record automatically by using workflow activities. We'll then dig into some of the different features and functions and what options are available along with this Salesforce integration. And then we'll talk about the workflow activities specifically and dig in, kind of pop the hood and see how all of those work. So some of the features that we'll be looking at, as I mentioned, is automatically creating folders in Laserfiche from within Salesforce. Letting Salesforce or pulling information from Salesforce to assign and update metadata. How to interface and save documents and view and browse documents within Laserfiche from within Salesforce without ever actually leaving Salesforce via an iframe. We'll take a look at an example of that. And then, as I mentioned, lastly, we'll look at the custom workflow activities. So with that, let's go ahead and get into it. Now I'm going to start out with an example, as I mentioned. This is a Laserfiche form that we filled out. This could be any form that you have publicly available for your clients or anyone else to fill out so they can access from the web. This example is just going to be an onboarding form for new clients in a financial firm. So we'll fill out some basic information. I'm going to use my favorite stuff from the office. We'll go with Jim Halpert. Maybe he lives at 123 Fake Street in Scranton, PA. And of course, he works for Dunder Mifflin. I'm just going to leave the rest of these open. If you're interested in learning more about what we can do with Laserfiche forms, we have several different videos available on our on the CDI YouTube channel. We'll talk you through how to make these and some different options and already available out of the box forms that are you can use as well. The main focus on today is going to be taking that information and then passing it through to Salesforce. So we're going to go ahead and just submit with that limited information that we have. So the way that this is set up, there's going to be another step that will require this to go to a manager or a supervisor for approval. This would be to make sure that everything has been filled out correctly. We have all the information that we need, just to ensure anyone who has Salesforce today or any other type of CRM knows how important data integrity is, making sure that all of that information is kept up to date and we're passing over information that is valid and recent. So we'll go through a review status where they can log in online, find this information. So we're just going to go ahead and approve this. Now, once this has been approved, this is where everything actually kicks off. This is going to go to a workflow. That information is going to be passed over and then picked up by the workflow. It's going to look into Salesforce to see if there's already a Salesforce record for that individual, for Jim Halpert. If there is, then it will just go ahead and update it with the new information. If not, it'll create a new one, assign an account name. And so as you can see, when I refresh there, we see Jim Halpert at the top now. So let's go ahead and drill into that in Salesforce. By the way, those of you who don't have Salesforce already, this is just the Lightning interface. It's one version of Salesforce, but we're actually in Salesforce right now, and that's what we're viewing. So this was created automatically. It brought in the phone number that we gave it. The account owner has been automatically populated. It came in with the account name, and then also automatically assigned an account number to it. We see the billing address, some other information, phone number. If we wanted to, any one of these different fields could have been passed over and automatically filled out. It just depends on how much information you want done via the workflow and how much information you want passed over and added manually. The next thing I do want to draw your attention to, though, is going to be this little iframe, this part of the page. This is actually prompting me to log into Laserfiche from within Salesforce. So the other thing that happened here was the workflow automatically created a new folder so we can start saving documents for this individual, for Jim Halpert. And I think it may have even created a few too. We go in here and look. So there we have the pending account openings document that was automatically created. We wanted to open that up. We're now actually browsing Laserfiche via the web client without having to leave the Laserfiche, or sorry, without having to leave the Salesforce page. The way you can start thinking about how all this ties together too, obviously there's a lot of little plugins, a lot of add-ons, a lot of features and functions that are available within Laserfiche. One of those is being able to automatically fill out PDFs and Word docs with basic information. And so we've brought that in here as well. So not only are we passing over information that was filled out on a form into Salesforce, but we're also auto-populating some of the starting documents that we'll want to send out. And we could always send those out via DocuSign. There's a DocuSign integration that we have as well. We covered that in one of the previous webinars. So if you're interested in more information about that, feel free once again to check out our YouTube channel, and there's a couple videos on how the DocuSign integration works along with this. We can see here that it automatically filled out some of this information, the same data we have in Salesforce already. One thing that's really nice is if you have an account number that's automatically being filled out in Salesforce, that can be brought over, queried, and populated here as well. So you're beginning to see the breadth of possibilities from within Salesforce and within the integration. But yeah, what it did is it automatically created this folder, named it with Halpert, Jim, last name, first name, and then with the account number at the end, added some subfolders, and then even added a couple documents with automatically filling out the client information on those documents to get you started. And if we look here, we may also be able to see the fields that it did take some information and assign it to that client folder as well. The main one that's going to be important is just from a back-end standpoint. If you're wondering how does it know to update this information, where to save it and all of that, there has to be some sort of tie between or tie back. That's going to be that Salesforce ID. That's automatically populated and created in Salesforce. That when that's created, you'll find that number right here. But that needs to exist somewhere within the within Laserfiche in order for it to know which folder to use, which one to update, and things like that. But if you did want to have additional information like the address of this individual, the account number, things like that, all of that could reside here as metadata and be easily updated in real time using the Salesforce integration. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look now at what those workflow activities look like. I'm just going to log in here quick. There we go. So we've got a couple of Salesforce workflow activities here. If we scroll down, we might be able to see those. We have our Salesforce Activities by Cities Digital. Once again, these were created in-house by our development team. And you'll see some of the basic options that we have here are create Salesforce record, delete, find Salesforce record, then for each found or for each created, retrieving Salesforce record, and updating Salesforce record. So these are all options and features that we have using the workflow activities. The way that we've used these in the past, the way that you just saw these working was retrieve information from the form that was submitted and then create a Salesforce record. Or we could have a conditional decision that says if find Salesforce record, if no Salesforce record is found, then create Salesforce record. Another option would be to find Salesforce records that are no longer active or something like that, or have a status of not active, and then you can automatically delete those. But oftentimes what we'd really like to do is just create folders for anyone that doesn't have it, and the way to do that would be to find the Salesforce records based on certain criteria. And those of you who are familiar know that Salesforce is pretty robust. I mean, it's a bit of a monster when you get into it. That it's got a lot of different features, a lot of functions. When you keep track of contacts, events, contracts, accounts, entities, families, leads, opportunities, that you start to really go down the rabbit hole. The good thing is each one of those has its own table in the background where all that's being stored. And with these Salesforce activities, we can query any one of those. So if we go into the record type here, we tell it, like, what is it that you want to look for? Are we looking for a specific account? Are we looking for an account role? Are there attachments? Are we looking for specific campaigns, categories, emails, things like that? Leads, once you have that information, you can start saying, all right, we want to look for accounts. Well, an account can contain dozens of different fields, many different lines and records and information. So from here, you can go in and say exactly which fields you want to retrieve from the account. Maybe. So we'll go ahead and look at the criteria here. This will bring in all the different fields that reside at the account level. So a big one is going to be the account ID. That's what we're using as our single source of truth. We're querying back to the CRM record via the account ID. That's what we're using to tie back to Laserfiche. So obviously you want the account ID to maybe equal a retrieve field value of that ID. Obviously we're not going to set anything here. But then we want to then retrieve some different information based on that. Like once you find the ID, we want to make sure that we return that contact ID. We want to know who the contacts are. We want the first name, we want the full name. Maybe we want some information like mailing city, state, things like that. But maybe we're not really interested in the citation or the title. That's not really necessary. So you only pull back the information that you're going to use. So you can limit the query a little bit that way. And then once you have that information, it's pretty much open to you. Do you want to automatically create documents and like letters based on that? Do you want to try and find contracts that are getting ready to expire based on any one of these? Any type of information that you have in Salesforce is now queryable and then updatable in Laserfiche and vice versa. But yeah, I think the main value here is obviously going to be the ability to then, once you have all the information, to keep it updated here and then have all the search options, but also being able to save documents, file documents, make changes to them. Anything you can do in Laserfiche, you can do directly from the Salesforce account without having to log out and log into a separate browser or a separate window. All of your information is in one place. So without going into too many details, that is the Salesforce integration in a nutshell. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about how this can work for you and how you can take the information that we saw today and apply it, please reach out to the team at Cities Digital. There's also a lot of additional information at Laserfiche Answers, the Solution Exchange, and then also at citiesdigital.peakportals.com/documents. We have a lot of external documentation that we'd be willing to share with you about how people have used it in the past, what the process looks like for getting this deployed, and how our team can take your ideas and make them a reality. Now, I understand that was a bit of a whirlwind. There's not a whole lot to show here. It's more of the idea that if you're looking to deploy something like this, let's talk about it and how it works in your organization, because every organization is going to be a little bit different. But from a very high, 10,000 foot level, here's some of the options we have right now. So with that, I want to open it up for questions. And the first question is, how often do you need to log into Laserfiche in iframe? So how often it shouldn't make any difference. That when you log into Salesforce, I'm sorry. Okay, actually, now I'm thinking about it. You're saying that how often will it prompt you for your credentials? I would imagine that every time that you close out the Salesforce, every time you close that window down, it'll probably prompt you to log back in each time. There may be settings and options that we can set up so that way every single time you log into Salesforce, it's kind of a single sign-on action, but I would have to dig into that a little bit. I'm not sure. I think in my experience, though, every time I close out of this, if I log back in to Salesforce, I need to log back into the iframe. Yeah, can I show a Word doc in the iframe, and how would you open it? Absolutely. So one of these is a Word doc. So if we open it in the iframe, just to show, I'm opening it in the iframe from within Salesforce. And what the iframe is really just looking back through to the web client. So it's going to look very similar to the way it does in the web client. You'll see that we have the metadata over on the right-hand side, category, document type, information, and then this is what we're actually viewing. We'll see that this one also automatically filled out some information. We highlighted it in orange so you can see what's been automatically filled out. But this is what a Word doc would look like when viewing in the iframe. Okay, Kelsey, you told me that you were also presenting how to import and export documents with the CDI workflow integration tool. It sounds like it's possible with the integration to transfer files from Salesforce to Laserfiche. I guess from Salesforce to Laserfiche, I'm not familiar with, I guess I don't often use Salesforce as a document management tool. I guess I wouldn't know where to look to see where you would actually save a document. We could have, like, I guess, attachments or linking back to something, but as far as saving documents, that is relatively simple. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to open up my file browser here quick. We'll go to, but I have some test docs in here. We'll just use this blank document. You'll see we can drag and drop it directly into the iframe in Salesforce. It'll ask us if we want to assign any sort of metadata, if we want it to be a client file. We can update some of the fields. Household name should be in here actually, because, yep, and there it is with the updated option. So as soon as, that's the other thing that happened is it's automatically creating a record for Jim Halpert, so that way his name is available in the dropdown. We'll say it's a financial planning doc and import. This is just an example of a TIFF, but obviously any document that, or any document type or format that you can save to Laserfiche through the web client can be saved using the iframe as well. So just to review, all I did was drag and drop the document directly into the iframe, and I was able to do that. I hope that answers your question. Let me know if it doesn't, though. So it sounds like it's possible with the integration to transfer files from Salesforce to Laserfiche with the workflow activities. Can you show an example? It was the one I just read. The way that we would, I guess, yeah. Once again, I'm not sure I understand the question. I guess being able to, what we can do is take information from Salesforce, query it, and then write that to a document that is then saved to Laserfiche. But really, I guess the idea is that Laserfiche is your document management tool, and then Salesforce is your CRM, and the two kind of live in harmony here in this one place. So the question Daniel Cuddy asks is, will this be recorded and sent out? Yes. This all of these videos go onto our YouTube channel with all of the glory of dogs barking and babies crying in the background, so you can revel in that forever. But yeah, this will be available probably late this week or early next week, so that way you can pause, rewind, and then also if you have any questions or follow up, you can always reach out to our team also. Steve says more interested in how you can create or open a Word doc from an iframe, edit it, and then resave it to Laserfiche. Yeah, sure. So this would be just like you would in anything else, that you should be able to check out the document. Looks like we have the option to send to DocuSign. Here we go. So if you right click and go to open, download, and check out, might take just a second here. We have the option to edit with anything that it has access to. It has to, of course, be downloaded. So if you want to edit a PDF using a specific version of Adobe, you have to make sure that that's available. But in this case, we want to edit with Microsoft Word. So we'll go ahead and open that up. Maybe we want to change it to, I don't know if I can actually do this or not. You kind of put me on the spot here. No pressure, Steve. Oh, I see. All right, well, it's going to take 11 minutes to open this up. But what it's doing is it's downloading it, checking it out. Once it's checked out, what that's doing is basically anyone else who wants to browse that specific document, they're going to see that it's in the process of being edited. With newer versions of Laserfiche, you can have multiple people editing at the same time, editing them in tandem. It's a relatively new feature. If you want to learn more about that, let us know. But what it'll do is basically check it out, download it, enable you to edit, in this case with Microsoft Word, and then what you'll do is check it back in, and then you'll have the option upon check-in to either save it as a new document or a new version, or overwrite the existing. So depending on whether or not you want version tracking, or if you want to make sure that you keep each of those versions, you will have the option to do that, or you'll have the option to just edit it, update it, and then save over it. Jen Harris, yeah, please reach out to us. We'll answer any other questions. If there's something specific that I didn't cover, by all means, that's why we're here. Okay, the question was related to import and export files from a hard drive to Laserfiche using workflow activities. Yes, okay. We do have something called import agent that would probably be the best option first off. And actually, I think, do I have my machine still open? I think I do. I'm sorry, but I opened it weird. and this is going to drive me crazy. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to change how we're viewing this right now. All right, so the question is related to import and export files from a hard drive to Laserfiche using workflow activities. So a project that the user will upload an Excel file to Laserfiche and will need to update a SQL table with these records. That we will need to export a hard drive, the Excel file using ODBC connection or CDI integration process as well. Process the records using workflow. We may have to take this offline, but let me go ahead and at least kind of show you the beginning of this. First thing we can do, of course, is monitor a network folder. So anything that, if you have a specific drive, like a D drive or something like that, and you have a shared folder within that, we can go ahead and use the import agent to configure that to automatically pull in anything that's saved there. So what that means, and the value to you, is that you don't have to have access to Laserfiche in order to save documents and information to Laserfiche. It can be done by anyone who is on the network. So the example I have here is it's just monitoring a folder called C users admin desktop import. So what that would do then is send it directly to our incoming scans location. So incoming scans could be monitoring for in this case, it sounds like it's an Excel doc. And then what workflow could do is say, all right, there's these new documents in Excel. So what we want to do is go ahead, and I guess we have a couple different options then. If it's electronic document, download electronic document. We could also just go ahead and I want to say there's a way to query the table and then for each record. But essentially we could use the integration to insert that data, that we do have the direct connection or the ability to write to SQL from within workflow. It might take a little bit of fancy writing in order to retrieve the information from the Excel doc, but I'm sure we've done that in the past. You're right, we might just be able to use the ODBC connectors in order to get that done. But ultimately, everything that you're requesting, the components are there. We might just have to dig in a little bit deeper, just maybe over a 30-minute call to make sure we can develop a proof of concept and then do that. So Pedro, I think you're already in contact with Jen. Maybe actually, I'll go ahead and work with Kelsey to try and set up some time for us to meet. Will it always take 11 minutes to check out a document? Ellen, I'm guessing that it probably has to do with the size of the document, and then maybe even the CPU, depending on how you have, where you have Laserfiche at, where the server is located, connection. Like there's a lot of different options there, and I want to say no. In fact, it might just be because it's working over the connection within the iframe. I'm kind of wondering if I were to try and check it out from the actual web client, if it was going to take the same amount of time. But since I'm already checking out, I'm not sure I can do that. Let's try this. It shouldn't. I would say maybe try it. I don't know if you guys already have the web client, but if you try to check out a document from the web client, that should give you a better idea of how long it should take. And if it does take longer through the iframe, then I would try to explore and see what the options are of checking out a document from within Laserfiche. All right, and actually, yeah, Pedro, right after this call, I'll go ahead and just send you an email directly, and we'll try and set something up. All right, any other questions? Did I miss anybody? Also, Steve Dixon, if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me in an email. And if there's several of them, you and I can go ahead and set up some time also, and we'll meet and cover some of those questions. All right. Well, with that, thanks everybody for your time. Like I said, this was recorded. It should be on our YouTube channel by late this week or early next. If you're wondering on the status of that, feel free to reach out to me. Other than that, thanks everybody. Have a great week, and we'll look forward to talking to you later.